Hello and welcome to punters.com.au. Runner by runner, Everest preview this Saturday at Royal Randwick. I'm Alex Donnelly. As always, with these runner by runners, I'm joined by James Lamb. Lammy, 12 of the best go around this Saturday at Randwick.
Yeah, it should be a cracker, and it's been a fair lead up to this race. All the Kaying rising rumours and whatnot, and we'll touch on the trial in a little bit. But yeah, it's a race that I'm really looking forward to. Always a cracker each year.
$20 million on the line this weekend at Randwick. Of course, all the slot-holes have done all the deals, and we've come up with the field of 12 now. So we'll get right into it, Lammy, because we're going to go through all 12 runners. We've got the speed map and a couple of replays to look at. So firstly, we'll take a look at the speed, and I reckon David Hayes would have been smiling as soon as that barrier came up. Barrier 7 for Kaying Rising, but there's the map up on screen. How do you think it looks?
Yep. I can understand why he's so happy, because he's got the two likely leaders. He's got Overpass drawn on his outside and Marzu drawn close by. So I think Marzu probably leads initially from barrier 2. Kaying Rising and Overpass come across from wider gates, and Zach Purton has options there on Kaying Rising, whether he wants to take that horse to the lead in front of Marzu or just sit off the speed. I mean, the speed map, as we look at it now, it's interchangeable. Any of those three could lead, and they're the obvious three pace setters. Magic Time and Briasa probably roll forward and look to slot in forward of midfield. Jimmy goes back to last. I think that's a given. And Jetabil probably slides back too from barrier 8. The early tactics with Lady Shenandoah, Jolly Star and War Machine will be interesting, because they'll all be jostling for probably midfield or forward of midfield, one off the fence with a bit of cover. So no, it'll be an interesting first 200 metres, that's for sure.
And Tempted can just fall asleep from barrier 1 and let it all unfold. And hopefully
Willow doesn't have to do much at all from barrier 1 there, especially with Angel Capital drawn in 3. I think he probably ends up on Marzu's back, and I mean, at worst, probably 3 back on the fence.
Yeah. Let's take a look at a couple of the replays. The first of which coming up is the Shorts, which was won by Jolie Star. She rounds up some of her opponents here. You see her there just warming up down the middle of the track. Jetabil's there. Briasa was up there closer to the speed, and then Marzu was in front. This was arrogant.
It was, yeah. She was obviously the standout from this replay, and that's a couple of times that she's gone like a rocket when fresh at Randwick. Doesn't always hold that form second up, but yeah, her and Briasa, obviously the two to take out of that replay.
Yeah, and I think it was also when last year she was first up over 1,300, then they tried to bring her back and then run again third up in the Everest. I think they've learnt the trick to keep her best fresh, which she goes into this Saturday after just the one barrier trial in between. As we'll go to the next one, which is the Premier. As they come around the turn, Marzu up on the speed again. Briasa sat a little bit closer. Jimmy was last, and Jetabil just plodding around.
Yep, and Private Harry, who won't be there on Saturday. First two home. Had a fair bit on them here. Jimmy gave them a big start, as he always does, and zoomed home, as he generally does. They wanted him closer in this race, but he just couldn't get forward in the early stages. And obviously it'll be the same or a very similar scenario on Saturday after drawing out.
Now, we'll take a look at the barrier trial that's been the most talked about barrier trial in the history of racing, which we're going to take in the full one, because I think you need the full context of this, where Kaying Rising, obviously, we can talk about the result after it, but I think the most important thing of this barrier trial happens as soon as the gates open, where he lands a couple of strides in front of them after 2 bounds. Bang, there he is. He's in front straight away.
Yeah.
Overpass to his inside, who's going to be one of the speed influences this weekend. They dragged Angel Capital out the back. But what did you think? Because the whole world had a take. What did you think as this rolls on?
I was nowhere near as doom and gloom as many were after the trial. Obviously, look, he's gone better in trials and races. That goes without saying. But it wasn't a bad trial by any means, and he was clearly underdone. I mean, Overpass is a trial specialist who never really ever loses trials. And he was hard-ridden in the straight. Zach didn't go, he didn't ask for a huge effort. And I think the main thing out of this was that Linebacker trialled out of his skin. It wasn't that Kaying Rising was poor in my mind. I just thought Linebacker was probably exceeded expectations, and Overpass did what he always does. But yeah, I didn't think it was a bad trial, and I didn't get swept up in the hoopla as much as others.
So we'll talk about it was a soft track that morning. So let's add in. This trial was at 9 o'clock in the morning, so it's still a little bit wet. The Everest is going to be run at about 4:30 when the weather in Sydney looks to be pretty good. He sat 4 or 5 off the field in this trial and didn't change his lead leg and had a look around the mounting yard and sweated up a storm. So it was all about having him have that experience, because he's never been out of Sha Tin in 3 and a bit years.
Yep.
So everything there, and then you add in, it's the fastest 1,000-meter course proper trial at Randwick ever.
There you go.
So it's
as you said at the top, I would have been more concerned if he flopped out of the gates and was 2 lengths behind the second last horse, because it'd be hard to turn that around. But obviously they've got a lot more miles into his legs since then, a bit of fitness, and I'm not too concerned.
Now, this is what he can do if they want to go mad in front. This is the Chairman's Sprint back in April. I was lucky enough to be there this day. I was also there when he won the International last year. This was impressive because he sits off a hot speed, and in 3 strides, when Zach hits the go button at the 300, it's over. Yep. And then he puts 4 lengths on. There's Satono Rev, who's running second. Satono Rev then went to the UK and ran second in the Group 1 at Royal Ascot there. He's put 3 lengths on them, like, in a couple of strides. And he's eased up on them late and they've got within 2 lengths. But that's what he can do if Overpass and Marzu just want to go off and gone. He'll just sit behind him because it's not a turn of foot. It is, he can just run a brutally strong 800-meter tempo. And I don't think the rest of the field can, because you'll bust him up when he takes off.
Yep, he put that race to bed in about 20 metres there. Yeah. That was outrageously
It was pretty impressive. But we do need to touch on as well. So this is a World Pool race this weekend. This is most likely going to be the biggest bet-on race in Australian racing history. So Romantic Warriors Cox Plate leads the way, 10.9 million Australian. But for the best current benchmark was the QE2 Stakes at Royal Ascot, which Wellington, another Hong Kong sprinter, contested, 12.9 million. Got Jolie Star. You've got, obviously, Car-Ying Rising there, but you've got J-Mac, Chris Waller, a couple of Yulong horses. We could break this. This could break this record this weekend, because there's a lot of bets to be had if you want to be against the favourite.
I think it's a given that we'll break the record this week.
So let's get into it. Runner by runner. We've just watched Car-Ying Rising, obviously. 16 starts, 14 wins, 2 seconds. Do you like him?
Well, he's the best sprinter in the world. Times, ratings, etc. He just beats these at his best. Drawn ideally, as we've mentioned, and one of the world's best jockeys in the saddle. 2 queries is the state of the track. There's rain forecast on Friday and a shower or 2 on Saturday, but it's pretty warm. You'd think it'd, still be in the good 4. I can't imagine we'll get to a soft 5, but it is Sydney after all, so we've got to keep an eye on that. Yeah. And the other thing is how he copes with the occasion. We can't predict that, but he's obviously no stranger to huge crowds and fast races, so you've just got to take that on trust.
Well, that's it. That day at Hong Kong, there was 60,000 there, as there was on International Day as well. So it's just whether or not he handles Randwick, I guess. But number 2, Briasa. Team Hawks would be praying that they could scratch a horse who drew wide in a sprint race. But anyway, he's flying. He won the lead up. He looks set to peak third up. Yeah,
obviously won the TJ over this route. Both runs back have been good. Stable and jockey both out of form, though. Schiller's striking at well under 10% across his last 3 months. But it's hard to knock the horse. But barrier 10, I think he's a better chance of slotting in than D on Magic Time. But, I think the first 200 will know more about this horse's chances.
Number 3, Overpass. Despite his amazing first-up record, 4 wins, 4 seconds from 9 starts, he's won once at Randwick, and that was in the Sydney Stakes last year.
Yeah, he was really brave in the TJ when a close second, but then underperformed in the Quokka and was never a factor at Doomben when he couldn't lead. Heavy track was also against. Good first up stats, but I think a minor placing is probably the best case scenario for Overpass.
Number 4, he's one of your boys, Jimmy Star. Barrier 11, he's going back to last.
Yep, it's a love-hate relationship with Jimmy. Huge finish on him, but you can't be giving horses like this the head starts that he gives away. So we'll just look into Jimmy more than other runners, because he is my boy. William Reid, last at the 400, got home for 3rd, but never a threat. In the TJ, last at the 400, flew home for 4th. Yep. In the Concord, 2nd last at the 400, got home well for 5th. And then last at the 400, last start, couldn't get past Briasa. So his most recent win, which was in the Group 1 all-aged, it was over 1,400, and he was able to settle midfield. So he's just going to be too far off them again, over 1,200 from that barrier. He'll be last, and I think he'll run another really nice 3rd, 4th or 5th.
What's the old saying? No speed, no talent. Jim, get into the race, son.
Yeah,
Barrier 11.
I mean, Chautauqua's probably the exception to that, but there aren't many like him.
Yeah, Chautauqua's colours. Number 5, War Machine. Now, this horse has just exploded onto the scene in the last 6 months. Won the Stradbroke. He's winning the Gilgai. Everyone's going to draw comparisons of Private Eye. Carried 60 kilos, smashed him. He's going to come into this second up, and I think he's going to run a ripper from barrier 4.
And I agree. I think he should have won his last 5, really. Yeah. He was a good thing beaten in the Hariba at Mornington. Not a great track for War Machine that day. It didn't quite pan out, but he still should have won. I think he's just got better with every start under the Hayes brothers. Awesome winning the Gilgai, as you mentioned. Very similar performance to Private Eye, who finished second in this race, to Giga Kick. Just a real sense of timing about him and has drawn nicely in barrier 4. So he was one that I think can give Ka Ying Rising a run for his money.
Number 6, Marzu. Joe Pride's done a great job in turning him around. He now looks like to be the speed influence. And can the conspiracy theorist in me say that Yulong have picked this horse to be the speed influence for Angel Capital to rip home?
I'm not going to disagree with you there. Look, he does look to be the speed factor to make Ka Ying Rising perhaps do a little bit of extra work in the early stages, but that's kind of been offset by the barrier draw. I don't think he can be a factor in this based on his recent form. 5 lengths off Jolly Star, 2 back, 4 lengths off Briassa, so no to Marzu.
Number 7 is Jetabil. I'm assuming they're hoping they can run 6 so they can make 950 grand instead of the slot holder money, which is 7th and onwards.
Yeah, very similar form to Marzu, actually, but likely to settle in the last few from barrier 8. Won't be running past these, and I think we're getting around sort of $200 when you look around.
Might
so
be
that's
bigger on the world pool.
Yeah, I'd imagine
Saturday.
we might be seeing 300.
Yeah, number 8, Angel Capital. Won well first up. Should have won the Rupert Clark. He comes into this as sort of the different form, I guess you could say as well, because he's only had the 9 starts. He's had 5 wins, 1,200 metres in that barrier trial. Don't know, but Ben Mellum knows him well.
Yeah, he's X factor, but hard to get a read on him because the first up win at the Valley was brilliant. Miraval Rose has been in hot form since, so the form has stacked up there. Sir Rupert Clark was a horror show, but his recent trial was awful.
Yeah.
Everyone was talking about Ka Ying Rising.
People were trying to talk his trial up. Oh, this and that. I was like, it was
He was
terrible.
terrible. He never settled at any stage, didn't make any impression at all in the straight. Stack of ability, but he's yet to prove himself outside of Victoria. So 2 Queensland runs weren't flash. He's won a couple of trials in Sydney, but wasn't overly impressive. So I want to see him do it under race conditions in Sydney or New South Wales. In Sydney or Queensland. Before I'd be backing him in a race like this.
Fair enough. Number 9, Jolly Star. She looks to get a perfect setup from barrier 5. She'll sit just forward of midfield off a hot tempo. She looks dead set certain to run top 4.
That's where we disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's her best, absolutely, but there's a fair bit of yo-yoing in her form. I didn't like her trial either the other day. I thought that was only average. She's priced on her best form. And it's interesting that J-Mac has picked her over Lady Shenandoah, which will probably see her attract a fair bit of Whirlpool money as well. Really good on resumption, huge effort, but has regressed previously off performances like that. So, look, I wouldn't be surprised if she ran well, but she's a horse that I just haven't really been able to trust over the journey.
Number 10, Lady Shenandoah. Should have won first up at the Concord. And then I thought was pretty plain at the Valley when she was truckloaded and really well backed.
I agree. I mean, she covered ground, but that was an ordinary performance at the Valley. But in saying that, plenty of gun horses don't bring their A game to the Valley, especially their first look at the track. So forgivable. 3 from 4 at this track. Probably should have been 4 from 4 when beaten in the Concord. And the map does look favourable for Lane. So despite J-Mac's choosing, I've got her ahead of Jolly Star in the pecking order.
Number 11 is Magic Time. Gets blinkers on and been by Hellbent. When he got the blinkers on, he went like a rocket. Barrier 12, not ideal. Good win first up. And again, I think that Manicato form is just okay.
Yeah, it was typically honest that day, but I do think she's a rung or 2 below these, and the barrier hasn't really helped. D will need a bit of luck to be able to slot in.
Yeah. Number 12, the 3-year-old filly Tempted was a really good winner first up in the Run to the Rose. They broke the clock that day, and then they broke the clock again in the Golden Rose. Form stacked up out of it, given Autumn Boy won. Wotan was average, and nepotism, well, he wasn't that great either.
He's going to the Cox Plate, apparently, nepotism.
What? Amy Var's more likely.
That's what I read. Barrier 1, 51 kilos. She looks dangerous. Getting an economical run on the fence. I like her coming back to 1,200 off that brutal Golden Rose. She gave Bayvok a thrashing over this distance prior, so I'm not too concerned about her last start defeat. Okay. She might be more like Autumn Boy than Wotan bouncing out of that run, so I've got her in the mix for sure.
And the emergencies are Iona Merck, Generosity, Rothfire, and Golden Mile. Do you give any of them a hope if they manage to get a start?
Of those, Generosity would be the best chance of running top 7.
You couldn't pick the other 3.
No, absolutely not. No.
How was Iona Merck there? Seriously.
Don't know.
Yeah, doesn't make sense. Anyway, Lammy, all runners previewed. Give us your top 4, and then we'll have a betting strategy with $100.
Yes, I can't go past the Hong Kong champ, Ka Ying Rising. I've got him on top. From War Machine, tempted for 3rd, and Lady Shenandoah for 4th. Which way are you going?
I've got Ka Ying Rising on top. I've tipped War Machine to run 2nd. I got Jolie Star 3rd, and I got Jim in for 4th.
I did want to put Jim in, but Jim or Lady Shenandoah, we'll put them equal 4th. But the $100 betting strategy, I'm not actually including Ka Ying Rising in the strategy.
Yep.
Bit short, couple of queries. So I'm going to play it what I think is a bit safer, and I'm going 10 the win, 90 the place on War Machine. So it's basically more the place. But if he wins and I don't have a cent on him for the win, I'll be flat as a tack. So, I think War Machine will probably get around $3 for the place. I think he's a good bet.
It wouldn't shock me either if Tab bring out a without Ka Ying Rising market as well. As I remember Nature Strip when he was $1.50 a few years ago.
Yep.
The one Giga Kick one. They had a without What's He and I charge into Private Eye at the 200. I was like, I'm home. I'm going to run second in Nature Strip here. Bloody Giga Kick. So be careful with those. You have to if you beat Ka Ying Rising, you've still got to win the race. So.
It'll be a great race for exotics.
Oh, yeah.
If you think you can get Ka Ying Rising.
If you can get Ka Ying Rising out of the top 4, you are going to collect a fortune.
Yeah, the trifecta could pay a mozza.
Yeah, but that's it. That is the runner by runner for this weekend's Everest, all done and dusted. Now, make sure you do check out Hold All Tickets. Lamby, Marcus, and Brownie been doing a great job there, tipping up an absolute storm. We'll also have a big preview on Out the Gate of the Caulfield Cup, the 1,000 Guineas, as well as the Everest and the Sydney Stakes, and of course the King Charles as well. We will have a World Pool preview this week. Calum Jamieson from The Sun is going to be joining us to take us through Champions Day at Ascot, as well as looking at some of these internationals that are running in the Caulfield Cup. So there is a lot of action coming your way across Punters and RaceNet over the coming days. Good luck if you're having a bet this weekend.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.